Okay.
So I wasn't gonna cover it just because we were lacking time before, but
Right, right.
now that we have even more time, um, why don't we just talk about your hero pool?
Yeah,
So, you give me like the rundown because you say you kind of flex around and kind of
yeah.
play whatever. What characters how like do you play all roles? Do you play how many characters per role do you play? Things like that.
Yeah, so I'm sharing my screen
Yep.
with you right now. One of the big reasons why I have so much time on Ana is that back in Overwatch 1, oops, sorry.
Yep.
Back in Overwatch 1, um, I played so much Ana paintball. I loved Ana paintball.
Yep.
I became like it helped with reaction time and everything
Yep.
too. But I played a fuck ton of Ana paintball, and I like Ana.
Nice.
I think her anti-nade is extremely useful. But let's see. When I started playing Overwatch. It kind of started with Reaper, so he's always got a soft spot in my heart. I'm
So,
surprised I have this much time on Widow, because lately big reason why I didn't really play Widow, even though I play a lot of her and like Widow headshot only and things like
yep.
that, is I just didn't think I had what it took to like I didn't want to get into like um, a comp game and then be like, oh, get off Widow, this is a terrible Widow. But
Yep.
I've actually been playing a lot of decent games with Widow. But let's see, I would
Yeah.
say
So
from the hero pool,
what about like more recent? Like is that you a lot of these you're mentioning from like a while ago, like the
yeah.
past 2 weeks or so, like do you have a specific role? It looks like there's a lot of DPS there. Do you primarily play DPS?
So I think honestly it really is just how I feel. Like
Yep.
depending on like with friends and not. So like
Okay.
out of the tank pool, Diva, Zarya, Reinhardt,
Yep.
um, Maga, Winston are like my go-tos. I've been playing a lot of Zarya recently. I've been fucking shit up on Zarya. I have a couple screenshots, just like the amount of like I do really well on Zarya. I can if
Mm-hmm.
as long as my team's supporting me, I roll through teams
Yep.
as Zarya. Um, I find that it's very difficult to play Zarya against Reinhardt, and it makes sense because he's
Mm-hmm.
got the barrier and but like any of the other heroes, even Orisa, even though she can kind of be a pain, I do really well with Zarya.
Yep.
Diva, I really like. I do pretty well with her. I have a hard time like landing some crazy, bombs or anything, but really I just look to get a kill or two at the very
Mm-hmm.
least when I bomb or get myself a second life.
Yep.
Manga, super meta right now. He's just super tanky, super reliable.
Yep.
But one of the main reasons I don't like to play him entirely all the time is just because I feel like it just can kind of get boring. But
Mm-hmm.
from the damage pool, I haven't played too much Ashe actually, and I've been considering. But recently, most recently, Widowmaker has been like the top.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would just go into quick play. I don't really play in rank, but I would go into quick
Okay.
play and I would just try and play. But uh, Widow, Reaper. I haven't played him in a while, but I'm good at Junkrat. Did some Soldier, but he's hit or miss. But
Yep.
Pharah, Reaper, Widow are probably my strongest so far. I would
Yep.
even mention to say Junk. Nah, I'm not gonna say that. But yeah, from the damage, those three would probably
Mm-hmm.
be my top three. Um, and then support. I am I'm gonna like be exaggerated here, but I'm a god tier Moira. Seriously, I'm a god tier Moira. I like playing a decent amount of Juno, but I haven't played entirely too much of her recently.
Mm-hmm.
But Moira, Juno, and Ana would be my three heroes from
Okay.
support.
Gotcha. So You we never got around to it just because your game started. But what is your goal while playing Overwatch? Are you playing to? Because you said you don't play comp, so you're not
Oh,
playing
I
to.
do play comp,
Okay,
but I just some heroes I don't play in comp.
okay, gotcha. So are you playing Overwatch to rank up, to win, to improve, to just have fun, or anything else?
So I would really like to rank up. I would
Okay.
love to rank up. I would love to get to the like Grandmaster Champion Top 500. Like I would love,
Mm-hmm.
love, 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 love that. And ultimately, what I eventually want to do is kind of like something similar to what you're doing, which is,
Mm-hmm.
coaching, streaming. Like I would like
Yeah.
to make this. I would like to not just from Overwatch, of course. I love Overwatch. It has a space in my heart, but um, I guess my main goal would certainly be to get up here, and
Mm-hmm.
then in the meantime, while I'm doing that streaming, I jumped into Discord chat.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to compete competitively,
Mm-hmm.
and scrims and stuff like that
Okay.
someday.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's a pretty high goal. So like yeah, you just got a lot of sessions, so I will hopefully be able to help you with that and get you climbing. And That's good to know because that's a very different goal than like it being ultra competitive is very different than just playing quick play and hanging out, right?
Right.
Let's talk really quickly about your hero pool, and then we can move on to maybe like reviewing that gameplay, and then we can go to a lot of other things. But um,
Right.
hero pool is basically the concept here that if you're trying to get better at the game of Overwatch, it will be a lot slower of a process
Process.
if you are trying to play a ton of characters on all of the roles because
Right.
you just spread yourself really thin doing that. So,
Yeah.
for example, if like you just named like just across the board like 10 different characters, right? Across all three roles, and each role plays completely differently, and each character plays completely differently with different play styles, different abilities, different ultimates, different ranges that they play at, different guns that they're shooting with. Like everybody's playing differently. Now there are going to be things that stay the same, but there are just also a lot of differences. So if you're let's say that you get in like let's just give some examples. Let's say you have 100 hours and you split that. I mean, it's not going to be perfectly even, but let's just say for the sake of the example that it's even. You split that 10 ways. That's 10 hours per character, right? That you've just gotten in. Which is not very much in 100 hours. But
Right.
if you had narrowed that down and let's say you're playing one role, and let's say you instead of 10 characters you're playing 3 characters on one role, well now that's 33 hours per character, which is like 3 times what you just had before,
Right.
or over 3 times what you just had before. And that just mean and in the long run that just means that you're getting a lot more time into a specific character in a role, and you'll actually find um it can work either way, where like getting I think it there's something to be said about like when you learn all like a bunch of different characters, it gets you a broad overview of the game. But then there is also certainly the case where if you narrow in and you improve at your specific characters, that that actually in turn gives you a broader sense of the game and gives you game sense and positional, and you will get better at positioning overall and awareness overall, because as you rank up on, let's say you just picked one role and you ranked up on that role, if you go up from like plat to GM, the rest of your other roles probably also won't be plat anymore because you'll have
Right.
understood the game to a better degree. Now,
Right.
some people struggle with that, where like there are one tricks in like top 500 and they just suck at everything else. But a lot of times, if you get better at one, but then also at the same time, like if you a lot of times if you get better at one of those roles, you'll also be getting better at the other ones. Um, so all that being said, this is out of everything I ever say, this is like the most up to you thing because it just depends on what do you enjoy doing. what is your play style, and how do you want to play Overwatch? It's all up to you. Personally, I love flexing. Especially on DPS, I'm a flex DPS, and I just kind
Yeah.
of play whatever at all times. But also, I have like over 6,000 hours in the game, so I can kind
Yeah.
of afford to do that.
Right.
And if I ever like get it, like whenever I get into comp, I don't necessarily play every DPS.
Right.
I'll kind of narrow in and play a couple of them, and then I rotate between. So that all that being said, my recommendation might be if you're trying to climb up to like GM champion level,
Yeah.
pick a role that you have the most fun playing, and that so whatever you enjoy the most and that you're the best at. So you can kind of pick that. It's up to you, and then narrow down your hero pool to even like a couple characters within that, so that you're not throwing yourself off. And then that's also not a hard lock. That does not mean that you never ever get to play anything else. It just means that you prioritize it and you're putting the most attention into it. So if you're playing with friends once in a while and you go and hop on, like, let's say you picked, for example, you picked tank, and once in a while you want to play DPS or support with friends, that's not a big deal, right?
Right. Right.
Or if you're in ranked and you just are like, man, I should like this would be it'd be good to swap to this character that's outside of your 3 character norm, then that's fine. Just try to focus on those things, and that will help the process speed up. All right, that's I'm kind of done there. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Any questions on it?
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
All right. So what are your first thoughts on it then? First impressions? Is that something that you are intrigued by and interested in, or do you feel like you would rather just try to learn everything? Are there any roles that like stick out to you as being something you'd want to focus on?
Yeah. So I'd have to say, um, so I think that I would like to to be able to have the flexibility to play like tank or DPS or healer if need be, just depending, because I know
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, like, especially if you play comp for a really long time, you can get like tilted and like in kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a mindset and then
Yep.
just going on a losing streak. So I think sometimes like a fresh
Mm-hmm.
a fresh like take on things
Yep.
helps.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
For sure.
what as a coach, just your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
what would you think if I picked like 3 heroes I wanted to learn out of each pool, and then I just stuck to those 3 if I if
Yeah.
if I had to, and I try to stick to one as possible.
Yeah, that would certainly be better. Like that'd be like a compromise middle, and that'd be better than just like playing whatever on those roles. Though it would still not like it would just be once again like this is getting into the like not impossible to improve and rank up. It's just going to be a lot slower of a process. Like for example, even just think about like just comp hours. Like it's just gonna be a lot longer to rank up. Even if you like are winning all of your games, it's going to take you 3 times as long to rank up 3 different roles than one role. Right? Like that's just factually how that works. Another thing just for you to consider is that once again not like a exclusive thing, but generally speaking, if like getting to high level scrims is a goal of yours,
Yeah.
generally speaking, people stick to one role because you in a team environment you don't necessarily need someone to play all 3 roles unless you're like a substitute. And even then, not really, but you don't really need someone to play all 3 roles. You need someone to play like one role really well. Um,
Right.
and that's how teams typically work is you'll have like somebody will join the team as the main support or the flex support or the main DPS or the flex DPS or hit scan DPS
Yeah.
or the flex DPS or the tank, right? Like you're not joining a team and being like I'm gonna play everything. That
Right.
generally speaking, so that's just another thing for you to consider and think about. Um, yeah, so
Okay.
just like a it will be a slower process and could potentially be a handicap, but not impossible to overcome and not an impossible idea. You can of course get good at all the roles. At one point, I was, like back when I played all the time, every day, whatever, right? I got up to the point where like I was basically like top 500 on all three roles, right? And that's certainly a possibility. But also, I started out playing mostly support, and then I swapped and played mostly damage, and then tank time I just kind of got in naturally.
Right. Okay.
And
So
yeah,
then I think in that case, what I'll probably say, so something, and let me know what you think, because
hmm
I think um, before they swapped from the 6v6 to
yep,
the 5v5,
hmm
you had like you had um the DPS role was a lot more impactful in my opinion, and
hmm
I feel like tanks are almost like um required to fill like a DPS role almost in a sort
hmm
sometimes
hmm
because of how, I don't know, kind of buffed the tanks have gotten and
hmm
the
hmm
because I love DPS. I love
hmm
love love DPS. And
yep,
I feel like they have the potential for a lot of like impactful plays,
yep,
but at the same time, I feel like it seems like I seem to do more on tank, if that
yep,
makes sense.
yep. hmm I gotcha.
So, kind of, what are
Which
your thoughts? Like, if I
yeah.
wanted, because I like dealing damage and whatnot, but
mhm. Yeah, I mean, you also just have to remember that, like, it's not necessarily in your game you needing to do more than the tank, the tanks on the teams. Like, you just need to be the best DPS in the lobbies at all times, right? Because, um, theoretically, if you're doing much more than their DPS is, it doesn't matter if the tank's doing more because you're doing your role much better. So that's just an idea, like, for you to think about, in the fact that, like, even if tank is more impactful, the DPS still does get impact, and that
okay.
you doesn't mean that you don't need to play DPS. But if you do just enjoy the impact that you get out of tank, then that's also good, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
fun to get impact, you know.
Okay.
This also doesn't need to be a decision that you make immediately if you don't want
Mm,
to. If you want to take time to think on it, and
think on it.
um, it sounds like you may be leaning between DPS and tank. Um, so that's something that you can take time to think about and play, and just like consider, like, what do you enjoy the most? Do you enjoy tank? Do you enjoy DPS?
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, I'd definitely say DPS, I think. Yeah,
Yep.
like, it definitely, um, man, but I love Zarya. I love,
Yeah.
love,
So
love Zarya.
maybe so maybe
Like,
you can keep
specifically how
yeah.
she is right now, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And maybe that's something like where you can, like, keep Zarya as like just like a side character that you're able to play, like, like if you're playing with friends, or you just, like you said, like you're just stuck in a where you're not doing great on DPS, so you just go and play some tank for a little bit and play some Zarya. And, like, it doesn't you don't never need to play Zarya. It's just like putting that priority.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Well, then I think I've got a good idea. Um, I think I'll probably, I definitely like to focus probably on DPS first then.
Okay.
Uh,
Yep, and you always down the road have the potentiality of swapping. Like, played support for, and even swapping mains within your role too. I played support for like 2 years, before I decided, like, I just like DPS more, so I played.
yeah.
Then I started playing DPS for now, since pretty much since then. Been playing DPS. But yeah, so you always have the potential to swap that if you want to.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Um, okay, cool. Now we're done with that. Do you mind actually? I just noticed that you were swapping like your sensitivity up for Tracer. Do you have different sensitivities for different characters?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Uh,
So what's your base sensitivity in DPI? 4 by
I
what's your
think
DPI?
it's. Let me look at let me open up Logitech.
Yep,
I think it's the normal 900, but then I
900.
will
Okay.
let me just verify real quick
Yep.
because I have aim labs and
I
I
gotcha. So that's
screwed with that a little bit.
so that's a pretty standard like low DP like low sensitivity then. And you're just to check, you have a large mouse pad and you're able you have a larger mouse pad, yeah. So you have space to move around on it.
Yeah, it's yeah, 900
Okay.
is what
If
mine's
you
usually set to.
Okay, just checking all the boxes real quick. If you take your crosshair and put it on like the head of like a bot real quick, take your mouse and put it on the all the way left of the space that you usually use on your mouse pad and drag it. Okay, yeah, so start there, and then drag it all the way to the right, and I just want to see how far you spin. Okay, cool. Perfect. So you usually want that minimum just to be at least a 360. And you do a little over a 360, which is perfect. That's exactly what I have. And that's just a I think a really ideal range because that just means that from the middle of your mouse space, you're going to be able to do a 180 either direction, which is ideal for making turns while also not being so high that you're like overturning and just having really difficult aim. So we're all set there. Now, in terms of having different sensitivities per character, um, I may recommend not doing that because that will mean that once kind of along the same reasoning as like the hero pool, in that
Yeah,
it will just mean that your muscle memory will be getting very confused because on one character your wrist needs to go an inch this way,
yeah,
on another character your wrist needs to go 2 inches this way to go to the same space, which is just going to be very confusing for you and will just once again mean slower improvement. And your having different sensitivities on different characters will just mean that your aim will be different on different characters when like why would you have your aim be different on different characters when you could keep it the same across every character and then have like the be improving at the same pace on each of them, like that kind of
yeah,
idea. Um so yeah, okay, so like and so tanks are like a bit different because they don't need as much aim, but then even then, like even with tanks I might recommend having the
yeah.
same sensitivity just so once again it just doesn't mess with you as much, right? it
Right,
doesn't it doesn't like um it's just consistent like across the board, and
right.
that way your muscle memory is able to improve at a consistent rate and a consistent pace, not you're not like practicing for different muscle memories at different for different characters.
That makes sense. I think these yellow stars show kind of like the different sensitivities. I just reset
They
tracers, but
they show anytime you have any setting that's changed. So that'd be like crosshairs or
oh,
so it could be anything really in there.
oh, okay,
But yeah, that'd just be something to consider and swap if you want to.
okay,
Okay, cool. Um,
perfect. I think I'm gonna do that because that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't want my muscle memory to be compensating. Yeah, absolutely.
okay, awesome. Um, do 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 do. Why don't we get into this recording and then we'll go through this and then we'll talk about just a bunch of other things as well on improvement and whatnot. But and we'll go over time a little bit too. So I'm streaming if you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let me. Okay, perfect. Nice.
Okay, look at that. I'm on the right character now.
Yeah.
I think. Wait, that's your name, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's why. No, I'm just kidding. I was a Juno. No.
Pulled out. Again, noticing that we're kind of, for the moment, exclusively shooting at the Orisa. So that's something
Yeah,
we're gonna have to keep in mind in these future fights, because that's not necessarily the person you want to be looking at first.
right.
Nice. Just a thought, doesn't have you don't have to always, but remember that your wraith form reloads your ammo. So
Mhm.
if you wanted to not
Wraith and then
take,
cancel it.
yeah, wraith and then cancel it, which would mean that you're not taking damage while you're reloading, just specifically for a duel,
Yeah,
it would reload you. You don't take damage in that time. You kind of come out on your terms, so you get to shoot him when you want to, and that gives you kind of the advantage. And you also have the potential to like dodge if he like threw like his hinder or something like that, his flashbang.
right, right.
So just a thought that you still won the duel anyways.
Yeah. You saw me switch between those two.
Example, she was low. Okay, good poking. Nice.
I try to punish people that seem to be out of position.
Yep, very good to do.
I was listening for footsteps in the bottom left here.
Maybe could have tried to push him sooner, but it's not the end of the world. Nice. Nice.
Yeah, this is where you made the comment about the Zarya. I was like, what?
I was commenting like the whole time on Zarya.
I know. I was like, is he switching between Zarya and spectating this one?
Could have been rotating sooner, because we like kind of waited till our team pushed forwards when you could have just gone off on the flank without them. And then now
Yeah.
like you're just lagging behind a little bit. So we're not we were like a little bit delayed to get there. So
Yeah,
just being a hair delayed just misses that. Good.
I think one of the reasons why, like, something that I've noticed, just on Reaper, that a habit that I picked up, the reason, and you'll see me like kind of wait a lot, is because when I'm playing, I like people distracted and focused on the other people before I jump in.
Yeah, for sure. That's really good. So I'm not talking about like that. That's a good kind of waiting. The
Okay.
problem was the fact that we just came up on this flank so late that, and we were just teleported just like a second late, which just means, and we like weren't previously in position, which just meant that like we were ulting, and we also paused to before we ulted rather than just ulting
Right.
immediately, which just that
Gives
extra
them the
2
opportunity to run
seconds,
away.
yeah, that extra 2 seconds of delay between teleporting late by a second and waiting a second before you ulted meant that they were out of the graph by the time you're ulting, which just
Yeah.
meant that they were able to run away, and both of them escaped.
Yeah.
Instead of that being 2 kills, it was 0. Plus,
0. Yeah.
also, Juno, if we had killed her sooner, Juno might not have even been able to get her ult off, or might not have even mattered.
Right.
So just things to think about there of just being just a bit faster on those
Setups. Absolutely.
Okay, so now we'll probably talk about about playstyle and Reaper and target priority. We can go place in a second. Which is funny because I think I was talking about maybe I guess actually the Zarya wasn't actually focusing the Orisa as much, but there were a few times where it was
Yeah.
so he can see. Oh.
Yeah, the sleep, and I get domed here.
Yikes! Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Not much you can do about that one.
That was a nasty sleep.
I think this is around when I was talking to you about the Zarya jump tech too. You're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, because I know I can get up there. If need be for a flank.
Okay.
Whew. That wall saved me.
There's a lot of them. Be careful.
Okay. Probably don't want to be engaging right now. Like we kind of are like waiting to like go in and shoot at them, but like this is like that point where like this is a lost fight. This is
Right.
a get out and go regroup with your team, not like sit there and try to get a kill. So we probably should have been backing off either this way or like trying to hide or something like that.
Right.
Because this could end up getting you staggered right here. Oh! Somehow you don't. You very easily could have died there.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about after this. We'll just go over a few things after the game. So there's like a minute left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're vault.
So let's talk about how do you tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight? Because that's.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't
Were
mean
you
to.
gonna say something? Yep.
Yeah, so like for me, if I've won or lost a fight, one, I think about how many ultimates do I know that my team has, and how many ultimates do I think the other team has.
Yep.
Is one.
Yep.
I guess the main one that I would say is how many people are alive
Yep.
on each team.
Okay.
Um,
Perfect.
and then
So go ahead. No, keep going. Keep going. I don't want to
oh, okay.
interrupt.
Yeah. So like if we're down like two people, and this is more so for comp, if they're like I can grab here, or something like that. If we had Zarya, or vice versa. But if we're down two and the other team is full, but I know we have a full team of alts, or depending on who has the alts, and I feel like they're overextended or something like that. I go, okay, I can potentially use an alt here or something, but if like I feel like we've lost the fight when like my team's farther away, or like they have dominance on the point, or like kind of like you said, like there's so many factors.
Yep.
But I think the biggest one would be people. How many people are alive?
Yep.
How many alts, and how many resources has my team used?
Yep.
Like, did my Ana just use her sleep, or did I just use my? Do I have my abilities up?
Yep.
Can I make an aggressive play and get out, or
Yep.
vice versa? If that makes sense.
You just said all of that like you were like 80% there on like on that all perfect. I'm just gonna add to it. All perfect like that. You're gonna be a really good coach one day, dude, because you like not many people are able to articulate all of that. Let me say that all for you more concisely so that you know
Okay.
how it's said. Is you're right. The biggest thing for win versus loss is player count, but there's the other thing that impacts that as well is the advantages versus disadvantages, and that once again all gets back. Like we were talking about with the aggression scaling. All this kind of fits into that, where there's so many other things that impact it. Like, do you have kill? Do you have a player advantage? But also, like, do you have which team has more ultimates? Which team has more abilities, more health, more closer spawns, better positioning, like that kind of thing. So, if your team is up or down a player or two, right, one or two people, that's an advantage or a disadvantage, right? Just like it can go either way still. You just play more aggressive or more passively, like we talked about before. If you are up or down 2 to 3 people, that's a won or lost fight from there. In which case, if you've won the fight or lost the fight, you don't want to use any ultimates because that's just wasting them. And if you've lost the fight, you just get out if you can. If you can't, let them kill you. Now, you also noted that 2 is kind of that middleman, that it can kind of go either direction sometimes. If
Yeah.
you come into a fight and you're down 2 or up 2, right? Either or. If you're down 2 and you have no additional advantage, then that's lost. If
Right.
you have another big advantage, then it might not be lost. You might be able to make up for it. So, for example, let's say you're down 2 people, but you have a big ult combo that you can do. Great,
Yeah.
right? It's winnable. Or you're down 2 people, but their entire team's 1 HP. Winnable, right? Because you can
Winnable.
get some kills still. But if you're down, excuse me, if you're down 2 people and you got nothing, zilch nada, or they have other advantages past that, then that's lost, right? Because
Right.
there's nothing. They just have too much of an advantage. And you don't have anything else to compensate.
Mhm.
So yeah, you're pretty much there. So in this situation, right, we're looking at this and we're going, okay, it's a 4v2. We're down 2 and we don't have enough significant advantages to make this worth ulting because they have better positioning. They kind of have they have point control. We're completely split from the Life Weaver, and your ult alone is not gonna do enough to fix this unless you like saw like the perfect opportunity with like 3 squishies like just standing there and not paying attention. Like that would be like the only time I would maybe say to do it, but then even then it's
Risky
just
play.
statistically improbable that you win,
Right.
right? So here just not worth it because everything just says no. Does that
Yeah, I
make
admit
sense?
that was a terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So sometimes like even if you have that like it who knows, you got like a 3% chance that you win, but is it
Yeah.
worth ulting on the 3%? Right, that's the question.
Right.
When you could just save it for the next fight, and in the next fight have a 57% chance of winning, right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So just things to think about.
Yeah.
And then you die, come in. Okay. Lots of focus on the Orisa. We get around the corner, so we use Wraith to push in.
Yeah, and I was trying to be a little aggressive here with our
Yep.
because I know we have the Tree of Life.
Yep. Press I need healing. That's gonna be an easy way to get your supports to look at you. It's just a good thing to have bound and a good habit to be in to just press the button.
Yeah.
Just because it'll give them an in-game audio cue so they can, like, if you're just staring at them, like they're just not looking at you, right? But
Yeah.
if you press the button, it gives them that like that ping in game, so they can not only they can hear where you're at and that you do need healing. Nice. Oh, massive.
Play the game right here.
Crazy. Man, I didn't see that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're definitely. So here, like, in case they push in, we could have maybe been like
watching
TPing. I think
things.
we're very, very much underutilizing your TP, and which we'll talk about after this game's over,
Okay.
how you can utilize that better. We'll talk about it and just general playstyle.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna have you rework a lot of your playstyle in here.
I tried to. I was about to TP right there as well.
Yep. So awareness. So deaths, primarily. So this is let's take a pause. Let's get into one of those improvement things, right? Improve the how do you improve at the game? How do you self improve at the game? Because
Yeah.
it's all fine and dandy to have me come and tell you what to do. But it's also going to be helpful if you can self identify your problems as well, because that can be helpful to be able to see where you're making mistakes, which will be helpful even if in combination with what I'm saying, right? So this cycle of improvement is identify the problem. What are you doing? What identify the mistake? What is the issue within the mistake? And then what is the solution to that mistake? And then applying it and putting it into practice. So the mistake, quite easily, usually the mistake's the easiest to identify. You died. That's a
Yeah.
mistake, right? That's you almost always, not all the time, but almost always dying is a mistake. There are some times where dying's not really your fault, nothing you could have done about it, but most of the time dying there's something you can do about it to varying degrees. Sometimes it's really obvious, sometimes it's something small. Um
Yeah.
there's also other things. Other mistakes could be like you just didn't get a kill where you could have gotten a kill. You are being inefficient. You're maybe misusing your abilities or misusing your ultimate or not using them at all when you should be. There's things like that. Letting a teammate die. Things like that, right? Are other examples of mistakes. Now you
Right.
identify the mistake. I died, right? But if you just said, "Oh no, I died. That was a problem," is that very
You wouldn't
helpful?
learn.
Yeah, you wouldn't learn. If I came into our coaching session and I said, "Well, you died right there," that
Thanks.
yeah, thanks. I don't, I wouldn't really get a very good review, right?
Right. Right.
Because it's not very helpful just to state the mistake. You want to figure out what is the issue behind the mistake. What caused you to die, right? And sometime, like I said, most of the time there's something that you could have done differently. So, what are some common deaths? Are the easy one because deaths, everybody knows deaths, and it's very obvious that those are mistakes.
Right.
What are common reasons behind deaths? Why do people die?
Uh, being out of position.
Yep.
Overextending.
Yep.
Um, maybe you're trying to take a flank and you're not paying attention. You don't hear them. And uh, they kill you like
Yep.
with a ability or
Like
cooldown.
yeah. So you're describing a lack of awareness, right? So
Hmm.
not knowing what's happening around you.
Right.
Yep.
What else? Kind of like I did there, like jumping in and I guess that would go into lack of awareness, but jumping
Yep.
in, trying to alt.
Oh yeah,
What
and the
else?
last one. Yep. Yeah, so that would be maybe just like overextension or even like a misuse of ultimate, right? Like
Right.
that got you killed. Yeah,
Exactly.
yep. Like once again, dude, you're nailing it. You understand it. There are like other smaller ones like misuse of abilities, like if you don't wraith or you use it at the wrong time and you don't have it. Or there's like poor movement if you're just like standing still or walking in a straight line or not crouching or things like that. Um, yeah, like other smaller things, right, that we can add in there. Losing a duel, right? We can add in there. But here, what I think you already were getting at that. What was the primary reason why you died?
Uh, Lack of awareness. Yeah,
Lack of
I
awareness.
knew that he was
Yep.
bouncing up and down there,
Hmm.
and I I thought that I was, oh, I'm safe here,
Yep.
and then he just hopped
Yep.
over the wall and
Just he wasn't paying
rolled me.
attention to the fact that he could have gotten to you, right?
Yeah.
So, um, lack of awareness, and then we don't want to just leave it there because if we just said, "Oh, your problem's lack of awareness," then you're missing out on the solution to the problem. Um, which a lot of times the solution is pretty simple. A lot of times the solution is just like the opposite of your problem, right? So if you died because you weren't paying attention, well, then you wouldn't have died if you were paying attention, right? Quite simply. And then the application, which is like the hard part of now you actually got to put that into action. Now you have to pay attention next time
Yeah.
so that you don't die. Which goes back to what we were talking about previously about making sure that you're actively focusing on the thing you're trying to work on, which shouldn't be everything, but should be like a category of things. Like, for example, awareness is a category, or even if the category is too massive, like awareness/aggression is a massive category. If that's too big,
Right.
focus on like 1 to 3 things that are smaller within that category, and just keep reminding yourself as you're playing. If you're thinking awareness, think look around, look around, look around, look around, pay attention. Where's where's their team? Where's my team? Where's their team? Where's my team? Kill feed, kill feed, kill feed, kill feed, kill feed. Right, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Just always paying attention to your surroundings. Cool. That is just talking about mistakes. Cool.
Right.
And that just I don't know if you've already noticed this, but that is also how I'm coaching you. That's the process that like obviously there's extra to that, like there's more to that that's not as simple as it is, but that is one of the bigger things, is identifying like where are the areas that you're screwing up and how can you look to fix those things. And
Right.
that's what I'm doing with you, and I'm just doing that with my more advanced eye because I've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
Okay, at this point, it's pretty much lost.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that worked out there. I told you to go run on the point, and because I thought you were the Zarya, but you went in anyways.
Yeah.
So it worked out still. All right. All right. So let's go over Reaper.
Okay.
Gameplay, playstyle. There are 2 big things that should be different with your playstyle in Reaper, and also one of these is just one of them is Reaper specific. One of them is every character. So. Firstly, let's talk about the one that comes first here, which is target priority. Target priority is you should be looking at and shooting at the easiest characters to kill, because the easiest characters to kill will actually die. Hard characters to kill, as they sound, are hard to kill and won't die as easily and will take much, much longer to kill. Now, there's also another smaller thing within target priority, which is like who's the most valuable character. But the easiest, most basic thing is just who's the easiest to kill, because you'll be able to get them the easiest. The hardest characters by design are tanks to kill. Tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have armor. They have tanking abilities. They have shields, and they get healed the easiest out of every character. They're by design the hardest to kill, right? Like if you just take an Orisa, but normal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots to kill. Squishy 1 shot to kill, or I think you can still do that on I think the bots are lower HP. I guess they actually changed that. I guess it's 2 shots now.
Okay.
2 shots to kill. The bots are, for some reason, they never adjusted the bot health. I don't know why they didn't do that.
Yeah.
So 2 shots to kill versus 5 shots to kill, and that's not even
If they're
taking
full
into
health.
if they're full HP, and that's not even taking into account all those other things like fortify, javelin spin, healing, things like that, right? So
Right.
hard to kill. Therefore, you don't want to come into every single fight just trying to shoot in the tank 24/7, right?
Right.
You should only ever shoot at the tank if they're low, if they're out of position, or if they're the only thing you can shoot at, which
Okay.
usually isn't the case. What you do instead is, let's say you have equal opportunity. So equal opportunity is there's an Orisa here and there's squishies here. You have equal opportunity. Go shoot the squishies, right? Not the Orisa. If Orisa was 1 HP, like that, then that's a little bit different. Shoot at the Orisa, right?
Yeah.
Or if like the Orisa's out of position because like their whole team's like over there and the Orisa's right here, shoot at the Orisa, right?
Yeah.
Or if their whole team's dead and the Orisa's the only one alive, shoot at the Orisa. Go ahead. But if you have equal opportunity, then shoot at the squishy, or you can even go and actively seek out the other characters which you can do by taking off angles, or even using teleport to get to them, which we're going to talk about in a second. But that is target priority. Even think about the fact that even among squishies, there are easier and harder characters to kill, right? Like, who's going to generally be easier to kill? A Mei,
Widow.
or I mean, I was just gonna give you a comparison.
Oh,
Mei
yeah.
or Ana.
Anna certainly, as long as she
Ana easier
misses
to
her
kill.
sleep.
Yeah, Ana's easier to kill. Who's gonna be easier to kill? A Hanzo or Lucio?
Got Hanzo.
Hanzo, right? Exactly. So, even you can think about that even among the squishies. And something that could be helpful is at the very beginning of the game just pressing tab and just like making a quick list for yourself of easiest to hardest and trying to stick towards it as much as possible. And so just go at the very beginning of the game. Go, okay, they have Ramatra, Tracer, Hanzo, Lifeweaver, Baptiste, and going, okay, easiest to kill is probably Hanzo. And then after that, and you can even put them in tiers as well, right? Like maybe Hanzo, Lifeweaver are the two easiest, and then Baptiste, and then Tracer, and then Ramatra, right? And you just come up with that quick list. Okay, now, first, before I get into the next step, any questions on that? That'll make sense.
Oh yeah, pretty straightforward.
Okay, cool. Now, how do you do this on Reaper? Reaper, each fight, you're just kind of running at them straight head on a lot of times. Now, you are actually, what's good is that you are taking off angles, which if that is their team and this is your team and this is the main angle, this is an off angle just coming off onto the side, and this is very good because it's fast, it's safe, it gets you straight to their back line, and gets you to the things you want to be shooting at. And you also, if you're coming at from the main angle, you take all of the damage that they're just pumping through the main angle, and you'll just take a lot more damage, and they'll like see you coming and be able to react to you a lot easier, and just overall you'll take a lot more damage when you're coming from the front. Okay, so you did the off angles, which is good. Sometimes you go too much through the main angle. I'd say you'd go too much through the main angle, generally speaking.
Right.
Which is why you can do the off angles, or if the off angles aren't an option, because they'll be an option sometimes, maybe like a third of the time or something like that, but they're not always there. So what you can do is use your teleport to your advantage. Your basic combination as Reaper is, if this is the main angle right here, is teleport to their backline, mow down their backline, or try to do some damage. Once you get pressured, you wraith back to your team and play from the front line until you get your abilities back. Okay? And then we just play from here, play passive, play, and then we TP back in, and we repeat the process. Right? It's just that, it's that rotation. Okay?
Okay.
Rather than just kind of, what you would do is you would just kind of stick here the whole time and just shoot
Right.
at the Orisa over and over and over again.
Right.
And then once in a while you'd go off on the flank, and that would actually be helpful. But when you're just kind of sitting on the front line all the time, that wouldn't be usually super helpful. This is also really, really, really helpful, and this is how you want to be ulting as well, is just teleporting to their back line and doing it from the back. Now, if you're doing this, if you're teleporting where they can see you, then you lose your surprise advantage. Right? If they can see either end of your TP, then it's no longer a surprise.
Right.
So you want to hide both ends. One end is good, two ends is optimal, right? So
Okay.
if we stand here and we hide one end up here, that's better than just like teleporting in front of them here, but
Right.
it's still not as good as if we did this and put them out of our line of sight. Because if
Right.
we put them out of line of sight while we're doing this, like this, right?
Mhm.
Or even like this, right? Then we can just drop it on top of them, and they're not reacting quickly.
Yeah.
Yep. So, that is just that process. I don't think I have other things to say. Yeah. Makes sense. Any questions?
No. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Awesome. Let's go over a little bit more, and then we're gonna start the wrap up.
Okay.
Let's see. We talked about the improvement process. We talked about trying to think what else was there to talk about, because we kind of talked about everything out of order. So, we could talk about compositions potentially, if that's something that you had any. Do you want to talk about like the different team compositions in the game and how they operate and play?
Like dive, like the passive and more aggressive team comps.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And like how they interact with each other, what characters make up them, how to tell what composition your teams are on, and how to pick into those comps and how to play with them. Like, does that you want to do that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Let's do that, and then that will probably be our last thing, and then we can do a quick review at the end. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to send you another little chart here. Yeah, I got
Okay.
both the charts out on the first day. Awesome. Okay, so this right here is the rough compositions list, and these are the compositions that have pretty much always existed in Overwatch. Dive, brawl, spam. And or another term for brawl is death ball or rush. Spam is poke. I don't know if there's another word for it, but how these all work is dive is very mobile paced. You probably know dive. You've played this game forever, right?
Oh yeah.
That's the most well known one, right?
Yeah.
Dive in, you start off far away, you get close with your high mobility. Pacing wise, it can kind of depend. Sometimes you play slow and just wait till you get a pick and then just go, or other times you just go from the get go and try to do a hard dive and just jump in like from the get go. Brawl is pretty, and brawl and spam are pretty one note. Brawl compositions, they are close ranged characters. So think, and usually they're pretty tanky
Greg,
as well.
Ryan.
So yep, Brig, Ryan, Reaper, Lucio to speed them all around. Junker Queen. For DPS, since you're thinking about doing DPS, Reaper, May. I mean, Torbjorn and Junkrat are like half brawl. Things like that, right? Are all brawl, and because they're close ranged, they like to play fast. If the fight drags out, then they are at a disadvantage because they will just end up like if you're far away from them and you're slowly running in, then they're just shooting you when you can't shoot back, right? So you want to
Right.
get on top of them quickly. Spam is the exact opposite from Brawl, where they are far ranged characters. So tanks, it'd be like Sigma's the standard one. Ramattra and Orisa are kind of like half spam. Roadhog, half spam. And then you have DPS, you like
Aura, Junkrat.
snipers. Yep, Far Junkrat. Hit scan characters are pretty much all spam, besides Tracer and Reaper.
Yeah.
And then supports would be like Baptiste, Zenyatta, Mercy, Alari, characters like that. So,
Yeah.
so then because they're far away, they want to play slow. The slower they play, the more value they get because they can just kind of pump damage into you when you can't do anything back to them. Right?
Okay.
Now, rough rock paper scissors is that dive has the advantage, not massive advantage, but has the advantage into spam. Because I guess sometimes it's more massive than others. It kind of depends. But
Yeah.
advantage into spam because spam likes to play far and slow. Well, dive gets on you really, really quickly, and that gets rid of both of those. Right? Dive just closes the gap instantly, and spam's usually squishier too.
Yeah.
Spam has the advantage into brawl because spam starts out the fight at their win condition and just can kind of keep running away. Brawl starts out the fight at the disadvantage because they're starting the fight out not right next to the other team, right?
Yeah.
They have to run
Yeah.
in. So they naturally have to run in, and if they can't get close, then they kind of lose, and that's harder to do than just running away. And then plus there are also less brawl maps in the game than there are spam maps, but
Yeah.
and then brawl has the advantage into dive because brawl is tankier and likes to play close, so it's not really as threatening for dive to get close, and they can't really blow up as much. Okay,
Right.
hybrid is kind of when you're not running anything in particular. or you're not running one of these three comps. Usually in competitive, this is like a just you're running whatever. You're just running a bunch of random things,
Right.
and it's usually not as good as if you're running a single team composition. Like for example, if you're running like a brawl spam hybrid, half your team wants to run in, half your team's trying to back up, and like half your team's running fast and close, half your team's doing far and slow, and that just doesn't work out well for you, right?
Right.
So usually you want to try to pick with your team. So that's helpful to like try to stick with what your team's doing.
Right.
Now, let's see. So try to stick with those. Now, how do you tell what your team is? Um, the person with the most weight as to what your team composition is the tank, because usually they initiate engagements and kind of and dictate your team's positioning and pacing. So tank has the most impact, DPS have the second most impact, and supports have the third most, being more flexible usually, but
Yeah.
all of them still impact it, right? So if you have like one tank who's a dive and four others that are a spam, that doesn't mean that you're on a dive comp just because your tank's a dive character,
Right.
right? But if you have, you maybe even think of your tank like maybe be like almost being two, but not quite there, right? Worth two. But if
Right.
you have a brawl tank and two brawl DPS and two spam supports, you're on a brawl. If
Yeah.
you're on a brawl tank and a brawl DPS and three other spams, well then you're probably on like a brawly spam hybrid and you're kind of in that middle ground, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if you ever lean heavily in one direction, then you're that composition. So if you start out the game and you see like, oh, like I have like three teammates that are on brawl and one teammate that's on spam, don't like split your team up even more by going and playing spam. Pick brawl so that you can be in sync with your team and have one coherent play style.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. Also keeping in mind that not that most characters in the game aren't exclusive to a single composition. Most characters are good at each to a varying degree. So, like we could just go through the hero lobby, right? So, like, let's say Diva. Diva is great at dive, pretty okay at brawl. Spam is horrible, right? Like she's not a spam
Yeah.
character, right?
Right.
Um, Reaper. Reaper's pretty one note. Maybe so he's great at brawl, okay in dive, horrible at spam, right?
Yeah.
Or Mercy. Great at dive, great at spam, not so great
Terrible
at
for
brawl.
brawl.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
so great at brawl. So, and certain characters are a little more flexible than others. Certain of them are more in one note. Certain like things like that, right? So just kind of keeping that in mind as well. Okay. All that makes sense. Any questions on it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So just try to make sure that you're like picking the right characters, playing into them right. Each map plays a little bit differently. Hopefully this is obvious, but long range maps, long, wide, open maps play best to spam. Close quarters, intimate fighting maps play to brawl. So long range map would be something like Junkertown, um, or
Havana.
Havana. Yeah, exactly. Brawl map would be like Kings Row, right?
Yeah.
Or a lot of times control points will have brawly maps on them.
Yeah.
And then dive will do best. Dive is like kind of like the flexible one, but a lot of times you'll know it's kind of a divey map if it has a lot of very vertical high ground. Because
Yeah.
they can just jump up and get on the high ground instantly, which makes
Yeah.
them very good. Um, and Brawl does not like lots of high grounds, and Spam is the middle where like yeah they like high grounds but not as much as Dive.
Right.
If they like high grounds when they're horizontal high grounds, where it's high ground, little bits of high grounds, and lots of open space, like Town. Okay, that's it. Quickly let's close up the wrap up review. Um, do 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 do. main points of the session. I mean, let's see. We talked about Reaper really for this one. I'm gonna go over any Zarya. Ability usage. You weren't really utilizing your TPN. We kind of talked about that the whole rotation with abilities. That kind of all goes to like a medium or higher end of a medium for you to work on. Ultimate wasn't too bad. They're like just like misplay or two on it, so maybe that's a low to medium priority for you to work on. Just make sure that you're not doing it when the fight's lost. And then positioning, take those off angles, get behind them. Honestly, you're doing pretty solid with cover usage. That's something that you're doing really good at, which is just a basic fundamental positioning. Overall, that was like a low to medium priority. Your ranging was good. And then your mechanics target priority comes up big in there, and that was like a medium priority. There wasn't much more within mechanics. We talked about sensitivities, and that's pretty much about it. We didn't talk about much more within mechanics. And then finally comes awareness, which we did talk about, like paying attention to your surroundings so you're not getting killed from behind. And for that also on Reaper, like there were, like also watching kill feed, how to tell whether or not the fight is won or lost, stuff like that, which goes probably to like a medium-ish. So to put that all in order on Reaper, probably number 1 was the ability rotations, number 2 was the target priority, number 3 was awareness, 4 was ult usage, and 5 was positioning. Any final questions on anything?
No, that makes sense.
All right, cool. I'm gonna get you your